If we walked into an inn in the Young Kingdoms, what are we going to pay with? What technology are we going to see around us? What weapons will we fight for survival with? These are the type of questions that got me down a deep rabbit hole that led me to finding out about interdimensional wars and self destructive ancient races, so let's jump in. Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Elric. Quick note that if there is anything that I might have gotten wrong from the last video or the one following, let me know in the comments so I can make the appropriate corrections. I would like to keep the channel as accurate as I can. As some of you know, Murkoch is not big on traditional tidy storytelling, and sourcing this information is from varied sources within the RPG books. I'm doing my best to triple check everything, but if you catch anything wrong, please let me know and I'll address any mistakes in the following video. I know last time I said that we would be diving into the wars and cultures of Young Kingdoms next. That's still coming, I promise, but before we get there, I want to back up even further because none of that will make any sense without understanding where it all actually came from. What I feel like I didn't nail home in the last video is that Elric's world is our own, just many millions of years ago. Moorcock's universe does not run on cycles. Time does not move in a straight line. It loops, and the era we're exploring today is the cycle directly before our own. Small spoiler, Elric himself is the one who eventually ends the cycle and ushers in the next cycle, which is the one we all currently live in. Melnibonean scholars say that chaos originally created the planet, and ever since then that the power of chaos has gradually lessened, and by the time Elric is crowned emperor, chaos's influence has already thinned greatly. Melnibonean scholars also talk about the Doom Folk, which are believed to be the first race that populated the world in its inception. However, they looted the planet and did everything they can to destroy it to usher in a new cycle. After the doomed folk, a long time passed before the world was able to give birth to a new non-human race, the Nerain, a law-worshipping demi-immortals. The winged folk of Mirn, believed to be the world's oldest civilized race, and evolved from the bestial Klakar, and finally the inhuman dwellers in the Silent Lands, who seem to be related to the Mirn. The world those races inhabited was nothing like the world of today. The world as we know it today works the way it does, thanks to the war between the two elementals, Strasha and Grom, which we talked about in the short form content, but we might need to revisit with an extended version that will cover some things that I was just not able to include due to time constraints, as it's the nature of the short form content. So, what or exactly who are the Melniboneans? Take note that what we will be discussing next is a topic of a heavy debate. So, I will urge anyone interested in the topic to look into it themselves and form an opinion. I will cover the largely agreed upon points about the origins of the Dragon Lords. What we know is that the Melnibonean origin is not simple. In short, they are a descendant to an ancient elf-like race known as the Vadah or Eldren. The Eldren fled from their own dimension to the world of Nihrain, a prosperous society that served the cosmic balance. However, this is where it gets a bit confusing. The Eldren are Murkoch's answer to elves. They are ancient, non-human, and highly intelligent. They exist across many different dimensions and planets in Murkoch's multiverse. They share similar traits, they're all slender, they have a long lifespan, they have slanted eyes and pointed ears, and a deep preference for art over philosophy, and peace over war. The Murni are subrace of the Eldren, the ones that crossed the planes of existence and arrived on Earth, the Earth that Elric eventually inhabits. They arrived as refugees seeking peace and aligned themselves with the previously mentioned Nehrain to serve the greater cosmic balance. The Nehrain are the ones that forged the rune swords, Stormbringer and Mournblade, from the remnants of the Dragon Sword. Both swords possess the power to absorb the vitality of those they strike. However, Stormbringer is slightly different, as a demon entered the sword as it was being forged, which caused its wielder to go mad and go on a murder spree. There is a lot more to explain here, and if I am to deep dive into the topic of the Nehrain and the origin of Stormbringer and Mournblade, it will turn into a full documentary about the Eternal Champion, all the different incarnations, ships that travel between worlds, and that's just a documentary of its own. So let's get back to the Melniboneans. Though legend has it, a Marni princess was courted by a Furn, a race of cosmic dragons, and that courtship is the root of everything else that followed. Dragons, sorcery, and an immensely powerful empire, and we're going to leave it at that for now. So, that was all in the deep ancient past. Let's come back to the world Elric is born into, the Young Kingdoms. The Young Kingdoms are 3 island civilizations and kingdoms across 3 continents. There also exists other lands beyond the knowledge of the Melnibonian and Young Kingdom scholars. There is the Unknown East, the scorching hot lands west of Shazar, and the Silent Lands. The furthest edges of the world are found north of the Sighing Desert and south of Doro. There does exist a 4th continent of a thick jungle, which remains mystery to all. Melnibone stays in the central. That allows them to remain a central point of all trade and allow the Melnibonian conquerors of old to subjugate all by remaining impenetrable thanks to a maze of jagged sea rocks that guard the approach to the Dreaming City. So, chaos cycles, elves, dragons, and demon swords. That's the mythology underneath it all. But we still haven't answered the question that we opened with. What's at the table at the tavern of the Young Kingdoms? What will it look like? What kind of weapons they would pull when things go south? That's what follows next. Now that we've got our cosmic foundation in place, we can get into the ground level stuff, and that will be much more comprehensible and make much more sense why it looks the way it does. And as always, make sure you subscribe to explore the rest of Moorcock's world with me, and be aware that the journey will be long and perilous, and I'll be glad to have you with me.